Testing, 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 testing. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another live stream with Montana Outdoor Science School. My name is Melanie, and I am an instructor with Moss. Today's subject is all about Dumerils boas. We have sort of a guest animal on again today. This is not necessarily one of Moss's animals. This is actually my personal animal. And as such, she is not an ambassador animal. Nevertheless, she makes a really good pet, but she's just not an education animal. We don't take her out to visit classrooms, or she's not seen by other students. So she is strictly going to be a YouTube star. She is here today with me. I've got her in a little temporary box over here so that she is easy to move around. But without further ado, I'm going to get started. So my Dumerils boa, her name is Jade, and Jade is probably, oh, let's see, she's probably somewhere in the age range of 10 to 8 years old or so. This is Jade. She's our big snake. She is at this point about 6.5 feet long. When we first got her, she was still an adult. She was at 5.5 feet though, and she wasn't quite as thick and as girthy as she is nowadays. She's quite wide as far as what she first was like. She is meant to be more of a stouter snake. Boas, by nature, are typically constrictors, meaning that they will constrict their prey in order to kill it so that they can feed. With her, she has a lot of muscle mass. I am going to pick her up and you guys can see just how powerful she is when she moves. I'm going to set my camera back down as I get her though. So last week I talked about Madagascar hissing cockroaches. Dumerils boas are from this same place. They're from the island of Madagascar in the wild. There is quite a few Dumerils boas in captivity because of their nature as being really good pets. And I'm going to talk quite a bit about why that is and kind of the history behind what makes them such good pets. So you can see her here. She's quite big. In the wild, she's considered a ground boa, which means that she doesn't really climb. She doesn't really get into trees or into bushes so much. And you'll actually hear her probably a handful of times. She'll do a big puff or a big like huff. She goes, and that's because I'm working her a little harder than she's used to. Her being a ground boa, she likes to stay on the ground. She likes to relax and is actually considered to be a very docile, come here, Jade, a very slow moving and inactive snake. She doesn't move quickly. She doesn't necessarily try to hunt her prey down. She actually ambushes them just by waiting. That's her trick for survival. She will simply wait. She will ambush any prey that comes along. Oh my goodness. And she really wants to move around. I don't know if you guys have heard her huff yet or not, but because she is being held by me and because she's also holding herself up, I can do a hands-free motion. She's working extra hard to try to get herself to be comfortable. In her box, she was a lot more comfortable, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see her and how big she is. She is a big snake. Where was I going with that? Her being a ground boa, she ambushes her prey. So when she was first discovered, when her species was first discovered by Europeans, there was a gentleman, and his name is hard to pronounce, so I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, but essentially he was an Italian scientist. He studied plants, he studied animals, and he also was considered a taxonomist, which is a person who categorizes animals and plants. He found this snake and was one of the first people to report it and record it for the scientific world. Can you guys see her? She's moving all over the place. Maybe I'll pick up the camera so y'all can see her a bit better. So this scientist, he took these snakes, he studied them. Oh, think I'll go back the other way. And he noticed just how slow moving and how quiet they were as far as snakes go. There she is. Hi. Maybe I'll put you back in the box. There's a good picture of her. So the scientist, he saw how slow moving they were, how inactive they were, and he actually based their scientific name on this. Their scientific name, I'm going to have to take the time to pronounce this really well, Acrantophis dumerili. It's a two-part name, as is all scientific names for creatures, and it works a little something like this. Every animal gets a scientific name. This is their common name, and for her species, this is her scientific name. So Acrantophis is a Latin word, but it is derived from a couple of Greek words, one of them being akrantos, which equals lazy. So this scientist, he saw how slow moving they were, how inactive they were, and he decided, well, I'm going to name it a lazy sort of snake. And ophis is snake. Dumerili is just a name that is given to her species. This is kind of like the genre she belongs to, but this is her actual specific species name. And this comes from a name of an actual reptile and amphibian scientist who studied those animals. So I want to show you guys that. Let me turn this camera back around so we can get some views of her. There she is. So as an ambush predator, she will wait, and she's very good at waiting, and she will be very inactive for long periods of time and does not have to eat very often because of this. We feed her about once every 2 weeks or so. In the wild, she can go about a week to 4 weeks without eating, but there's this funny thing that a lot of reptiles do, and her species does as well. We found her doing it even in our own home, where she won't eat for several months during the winter. Reptiles go through a period called brumation, which is a kind of hibernation. Oh my goodness, she's so big. It's a type of hibernation that they just, even more so than what she would have done normally, will go into a quiet time where she just doesn't eat, she hardly moves at all, and she doesn't have to go hunting. We have seen her personally do this for up to 5 months during wintertime. In the wild, it probably is about that same amount of time, give or take a couple of months. It just depends on how long the creature needs to go into brumation. There's a few reasons they go into brumation. It's the change in daylight. It's also perhaps how cold the weather is out and about. All right, let me see if I can get a really good picture for you guys there. Oh yeah, look at that. They may also go into brumation if they find that there is a lack of food, which often winter does bring. So those things often go hand in hand. Let me see if I can get her back in her box, and I'll talk about her camouflage a little bit. Oh. She's such a big snake, which is another reason that she is also a guest animal for our live feed today. Or our live stream today. She's not an animal that we would want to have around students, just strictly due to her size. She's really so big. If you can imagine, she's just a big, soft muscle. She is just muscle everywhere. All right, now I can kind of get some close-ups of her without her moving too much. Hey, Jade. All right. What's fun about her that I like personally is her tongue is kind of purple. I don't know if y'all can see that, but she's got a purple tongue. You can also see that she's got this kind of spotted pattern about her, and this, oh, you okay? This helps her to camouflage in the wild. It breaks up her pattern, so if she was a solid color, she would be really easy to make out against the forest floor. But because she's got, you know, these stripes, she's got these little dots, little divots, she ends up camouflaging really well into all the debris on the forest floor, the decaying leaves and such. She probably lives in a similar environment as the Madagascar hissing cockroaches, but I think her species can go even further. So she could live in the slightly drier regions of Madagascar, but she does live in the forest as well. Let's see. Oh man, she's got some good close-ups right here. Hi. What a good snake. So, ironically, because of how good of a predator she is in the wild, her species makes really good pets. That quiet inactivity means that they're really easy to handle. It means that they don't need a lot of space necessarily. She does have a very large cage. The ground of her cage is larger than this table, I would say. So she does need still quite a bit of room just due to her size alone. Her species can be up anywhere from I would say 4 feet to 8 feet is what the average is. Her being a female, she is larger than the males. Males won't get quite as big as she will. And she is still due to grow as long as she has the space for it, as long as she has the meals that she's getting, she will keep on growing. And it's been estimated that the longest of her species can get up to 9 feet, which is quite something. Hopefully she doesn't get quite that big, but if she does, we do have plenty of space and plenty of room for her to get there. If you guys do have any questions, please feel free to type them into the comments. Somebody is always available to help answer your questions, and if I see the question too, I can try to answer them as well. You can see, now you can see how quiet she is. Now that she's comfortable, now that she's not doing anything, she is a very still snake, and that's exactly what makes them both great predators and great pets. She eats really, really large rats. In fact, she eats the largest rats that are available on the market. But we don't feed her live rats. It's kind of like the snakes at Moss. Again, we're not feeding them any live creatures. They're always coming to us frozen, and then we thaw them out to room temperature, and then she's allowed to eat them. I'm not going to be feeding her today, strictly because she's so big, and she is quite a bit more reactive than our snakes at Moss. If you guys remember watching Rosie eat and watching Maisie eat, it was kind of a quiet, very easy nibble, versus with our snake Jade, she does react very strongly when she is presented with an animal to eat. She does constrict it. It's quite a scene, and which is part of the reason I'm not going to be showing it today. I see someone ask, does she have teeth? The answer is yes, she does have teeth, and like our snakes at Moss, our corn snakes, her teeth all face slightly backwards, just so that she can grip onto a grip onto a prey, and then be able to kind of swallow it easier. So, let's see, what else is there to learn about Jade? Jade, like I said, she camouflages really well in her natural environment. If she were in the wild, you can see all those patterns across her, helps break up her outline on the forest floor. There is, I guess I could talk about females and males reproduction. Oh, nice. Somebody also asked, how often does she eat? It's a great question. She personally eats about once every 2 weeks during those months of the year that she is eating. If she's in her brumation stage, which is like hibernation, she will end up going through a few months of not eating at all. Oh, there's that tongue coming out again. So cool. This is another great question. Does she have eggs or does she give live birth? Her species gives live birth. However, they still produce eggs. So the females, after the mating season, about 6 to 8 months later, will start to birth live babies. And the live babies are about a foot and a half long or so. They're pretty little, but then they are able to fend for themselves right off the bat, which is a pretty fun and really cool thing, I think, that snakes do. She, as a species, does not have to eat as frequently as 2 weeks. She could eat less frequently than that. She is capable, but we do feed her every 2 weeks since she is our pet and is needing to keep a healthy routine and whatnot. So that's everything I have for Dumerils boas. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask them right off the bat. I'll spend a few more minutes showing her everything, or showing you guys everything about her. She has super cool eyes as well. If you guys remember, talked about how snakes shed their skin, and this includes a little scale over their eye. They don't have eyelids, but they do have a clear scale over their eye. You can see her pupil there. It is a narrow pupil. It's very slitted, but it does get rounded too. It's very bright in this room, so her pupil is constricted right now. But you can see on her eye, and I always think that this is neat, how her pattern on her scales, oops, sorry, Jade, goes across her face. And it even goes and continues across her eye, which I've always thought was pretty cool. And again, that helps to keep her camouflaged as a predator. So that's a Dumerils boa for you folks. Again, they come from Madagascar. They make very good pets, very docile pets, very large pets at that though. They do get to be quite big. She's 6.5 feet long, and she weighs probably close to 20 pounds. When we first got her, she only weighed about 12 pounds and she was only 5.5 feet long. So just an extra foot at her age and at her size really put on a lot more pounds, just because she is a very thick snake. That's the nature of a constrictor snake for you. Now she's moving along. All right, if you guys like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, and also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel with Montana Outdoor Science School. If you ever go to our website too, we are putting out little activities to go alongside some of our videos, things that you can kind of look at and check in with. Not all of them are necessarily activities, but extra info as well regarding some of our videos. But I think I'll end our video right here today, folks. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed Jade the guest snake, the Dumerils boa, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.